Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, Hearties! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, joined once again by my wonderful friend and guest co-host for the season, Theresa from the Heartie Observer. Today, we will be talking about When Calls the Heart, Season 10, Episode 5, Life is But a Dream. It was written by Ayla Glass and directed by Neil Fernley. Rosemary and Lee are still adjusting to parenthood. Lucas reveals the surprise he's been working on to Elizabeth. Nathan has a camping trip planned for himself and Allie. What did you think about this episode, Theresa?
I really liked this episode. I think there were a lot of really fun moments
Yeah.
that I don't know, that it was just nice to see certain characters like
Yeah.
having fun, or just I know we'll get to it later,
Yeah.
but just like in like a good place, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. Sometimes it's just nice to see that for the characters. So
Yes.
for me, that was the biggest thing
Mm-hmm.
about this episode, was seeing
Mm-hmm.
certain characters in a really good place.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Yes. Me too. So, to start off this episode, why don't we just talk about the elephant in the room, because this has been controversial this week
Yeah.
over parties. What did you think about everything with Elizabeth and Lucas and the storyline with building the house?
I definitely understand where a lot of the controversy is coming from.
Mm.
Um, it felt very like they were having their first like issue, I guess, as a couple, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I kind of wish they had talked about it more, like in a way that was like a two-way discussion, if that makes any sense. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like I think it would have been a little more satisfying if we had seen them reach some kind of
Mm-hmm.
compromise or have a deeper discussion about
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
But overall, I can understand why there's controversy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can also understand where the writers are going with it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. In my opinion, personally, I don't think that Elizabeth was being selfish. I mean, I can see where she's coming from, not wanting to move because of all the memories. But then I can also see it from the other side too.
Hmm. Yeah, and like you said, I can see where they're coming from, in that like I don't see Elizabeth as being completely selfish in this
Mhm.
situation. In fact, I think there's fault on both sides, that it kind of went a little bit overboard the way that it
Yeah.
did. But we can talk about that eventually. But for now,
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I can also understand why there's
Yeah.
a little bit of controversy there.
Yes. I mean, one, he should have asked her first before
Yes.
doing anything.
Yeah. And I think something I was thinking about the other day is I was kind of writing it through, writing down notes, and it kind of hit me that Elizabeth is a widow and she's lost her husband, and not only that, but this house that she lives in was the house that you
She lived
know
in with Jack.
she lived in with Jack. But not only that, she's actually owned this house since season 3.
Episode 1.
Yes, and that was even before Jack was talking about building houses and
Yes.
everything. She's had this house forever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of like big life events have
Mm-hmm.
happened in this house.
Yeah.
And I think that given the fact that her husband has died and they
Mm-hmm.
shared this house together for a short while, that alone in my mind is reason enough for Lucas to know better than to kind of, go right
Yeah.
into it and assume she's going to love moving away from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I'm not saying he's the villain or whatever, because
Yeah.
he's very understanding about a lot of it, but he should have known better than
Mm-hmm.
to just say, I'm going to build her a house. She's going to love it. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's like, no,
Yeah.
you got to talk
I
about
mean,
this.
if you think about it, except for the short time that she was living in one of the rooms in the cafe, she's been in that row house the entire series.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
I mean,
And
that's a lot of memories in that
yeah.
house.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. From the very first
First
days at
day,
Hope Valley. Yeah. Literally, as soon as she
because it was
burned down the
Abigail's.
teacherage, yeah, as soon as she burned down the
Yeah.
teacherage, that's where she was. Yeah, so
Oh,
yeah,
that's sweet.
lots of memories, lots
Yeah.
of big milestones for
Yeah.
her happened in this house, and I I was a little surprised that Lucas didn't take that into consideration, you know, like
Yeah.
he just kind of like, I get that he's very enthusiastic
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to do things for her because gift giving is his love language.
Yeah.
But he should have, if you want to give a good gift, you have to take the full picture into consideration. And I think
Mm-hmm.
he messed up in that he failed to do that in the beginning, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand where Elizabeth's coming from for
Yeah.
sure.
I think if they don't move, which they won't, they could find a way to make the row house their home. They can get new furniture, maybe a new bed for
Mm-hmm.
one.
Exactly. Yeah. We could
I
get
mean,
new furniture, new maybe paint the
paint the
row house
walls.
a different color. I
Yeah.
mean, he did that with the saloon too. You might
Yeah.
as well do it in the row house. Just
Yes.
make it their own space,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like, you know, allow Elizabeth to keep
Yeah.
her place, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
she's got Rosemary and Lee next door.
Yes.
That's a big part of it too. That would be
Yes.
like Lucy and Ricky leaving Fred and Ethel. That's
Yeah.
the equivalent of
Yeah.
that. And
No.
it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's near the school where she works, and she's near Main Street. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. She's got
it's
everything she
more
needs in the
convenient
row
to
house.
be in the
Yeah.
row house. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
At least for now.
Yes. Yes.
I did think Lucas handled it well. He says, I
Mhm.
did it again, didn't I? And Elizabeth says, you're a dreamer. You have these grand ideas, and I would never want to deny you of any of them. But this is my home, our home. And he says, I understand. However, even if you don't want to live in a castle, that doesn't mean I won't stop treating you like a queen. That was sweet.
Yes. It was sweet. And I know there's a lot of
People
people
that
feeling
don't.
like Lucas should have, you know, kind of attempted to make, to make his wishes known too, and to really have that discussion
Mm-hmm.
instead of just saying, "Oh, I understand, sure."
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, him going against Elizabeth's wish, specifically not wanting to leave the house,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I feel like it would be very in poor taste for him to do that,
Mm-hmm.
just because if he, demanded for her to move in order for them to get married, that makes it seem like he's trying to take her away from not
Yeah.
only the people she cares about, but also he's trying to separate her from her past,
Mm-hmm.
which is not what Lucas wants to do.
No.
And he was so understanding about
Yes.
everything. I know people are upset that he didn't
Yes.
put his foot down more, and I can understand. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I can
Lucas
too.
sometimes needs to assert himself a little bit more in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, just because, he seems like he likes to avoid conflict a little bit, but in this
Mm-hmm.
case I think he was right to back down, because it's not a good look if
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to force her to leave this place that's hers,
Yeah.
basically. And I think he did the right thing.
Yeah. I think so too. moving on from the topic of building a house, we get earlier on in the episode a scene with Elizabeth at school with her students. And I loved seeing Emily in this episode. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. It's always nice to see kids from, the
Older
old
seasons.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Emily's all the way from season 1, so.
Yes, Emily's been there since day 1, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love seeing that for sure.
Yes. And then Sarah is asking if her pumpkin seedling will be safe, which that comes back up. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
How Elizabeth encouraged her about it.
That was super sweet.
Yeah.
And she's a great little actress.
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
Remy.
she's phenomenal. Yeah, Remy, yeah.
Yes. Just temporarily going back to the house storyline for a second, we get Lucas at the saloon with Bill and Mike. I love how Bill and Mike were like, that's not a good idea.
Bill and Mike are like, don't do it.
Yeah. And
I mean, of course, they're both bachelors, so I don't really know how they know that, but
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. It's very funny, though. Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of comical.
Yes.
I mean, technically, they know Elizabeth more than Lucas, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
they've known her longer. Yeah.
For sure. So, yeah. Also, they knew Jack, too.
Yes,
which I think a lot of people are saying that they're upset that one of the complaints is that, oh, do Hickam and Bill know Elizabeth more than Lucas? No, that's not the point.
No.
The point is that they've known her for longer, and they also knew
Jack,
her life when she was married to Jack in that house.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
They're looking at the big picture. I think Lucas failed to look at the big picture,
Mm-hmm.
but them talking to him, I think, helped him to, kind of start to take that into consideration. So
yeah. The private date and the saloon. What did you think about this scene? I thought it was nice. I wish we had seen a little bit more, but
yeah, it was too short for sure. I thought that it's the first real romance that we've seen this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, oh yeah, bring on dinner, bring on the dance. When I saw them start to dance, I was like, okay.
Yes.
The candles were there. There were lots of candles, not as many as usual, but they were there.
There were candles, but there was no cat. I wonder where Cat is.
Yes. So I don't know where those candles are coming from.
In the black hole. She's in the black hole making candles.
She's somewhere in the black hole making candles and taking care of Emily, but who knows? We don't know. Yeah. But I liked it. I kind of wish it had actually been a recreation of their Union City date. I was hoping
she was wearing the dress. Yeah.
Yeah, she was wearing the dress, and I was kind of hoping that maybe he would have specially requested her to wear that dress, and he would have been trying to recreate that date. I was kind of hoping that's where it was going to go. I wasn't disappointed with what it actually was, but I think it would have been really sweet to actually recreate the
I think so
the
too.
Union City date. I think that would have been fun.
This little piece of dialogue made me laugh just a little with Elizabeth's comment. Lucas says, I want to give you the world. I would get you the moon right now if I could. And then she goes on to ask if it would have a moat.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm thinking of? This took me back to season 2, episode 1, when Jack and Elizabeth are at the train station talking about the moat because her friend, I can't remember her name, like shows up at the train station and is talking about a moat or something.
Yes, I remember that. Yes. Yes.
Her British friend, I think.
A moat. It's like, oh my gosh, you're so right. I forgot about that. Yeah. No, I didn't make that connection, but you're totally right. Yeah.
That totally took me back. That was
Yeah.
probably one of the most comedic Jack and Elizabeth scenes.
Yes. Yes. That was super funny.
Yes. And before we move on to the next scene, I thought the song that they played was reminiscent, maybe just a little bit, of the song that was for Jack and Elizabeth's wedding dance.
I honestly would
It
need to
sounded
go
very
back.
familiar.
Yeah, I would honestly need to go back and actually rewatch their
Yeah.
dance because, I've seen a lot of scenes from that
Mm-hmm.
episode. I don't think I remember specifically what they were listening to during
Mm-hmm.
their dance, but I'm sure you're right. I've definitely heard the song before that they
Mm-hmm.
were dancing to. It wasn't the Let Me Call You Sweetheart, which
It
is
wasn't that
usually
one,
what
no.
they do. It wasn't
Yeah.
that one. And that's why it kind of stood out to
Yeah.
me, but I was like, I've heard this before, but it's not Let Me Call You Sweetheart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was very curious about that.
Yeah. Moving on to dinner and tea with Lee and Rosemary. Now, this was cut into two different parts. The first part, I laughed when Lee comes in and he says, I thought you said it was going to be tea. And Lucas is like, there will be tea after dinner.
Yeah.
He's like, uh-huh. Yeah, right.
Yes,
Oh my
that was
gosh.
very funny.
Yes. And then Lee's toast after dinner when they are having tea. To our wonderful neighbors, thank you so much for a splendid evening. I know that we're both very lucky to have you as friends. No, wait, not friends, family. Your family. I loved that.
I did, yeah. And I loved how that kind of it almost ties into the house storyline a little bit
Yeah.
because it shows that this is not just Elizabeth's bestie that she's living next to.
Yeah.
It's she's living with family.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucas is being brought into not just her life, but little Jack's life and ultimately Lee and Rosemary's life
Yeah.
too because they're family.
Yeah.
And it's almost like them showing that he's going to be part of that
Mm-hmm.
fold,
Yes.
and yeah, I thought it was, a good scene. And
Yeah.
I find it very interesting that even though Lucas and Elizabeth aren't married yet, they Lee and Rosemary are including him into
Mm-hmm.
that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you watch Heartland,
Yes,
and
I do. Yeah.
a lot of times in Heartland, when someone's kind of initiated into the family,
They they go
they
to
they
dinner.
well they go to dinner, but they also get a stone on the
Yes,
fireplace,
on the fireplace.
and
That's
that
right.
that is the huge indicator that you're part of the family is if
Mm-hmm.
you have a
Yes.
stone on the fireplace.
Yes.
And one thing about Heartland is that even if you're dating or engaged, a lot of times you don't get a stone until you're actually like in the family somehow.
Yes. They did that with Ty.
Yes,
In
yes.
fact, I think it was in the wedding episode.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the same with Peter. Peter
Mm-hmm.
didn't get a headstone until way after even he
Yeah.
and Lou were divorced, I think. But at that point,
Awkward.
he was. I know, very awkward. But one thing I always noticed about Heartland was that even though Mitch and Lou were engaged at one point,
Yeah.
he never got a stone. And there are
Yeah.
other characters who came and went and were very important, like Scott, but they didn't get
Yes.
stones. And so to
Yeah.
me, when I see to circle back,
Yeah.
sorry,
It's okay.
when I see Lee referring to Lucas as family, I think
Yeah.
that's a very big
Mm-hmm.
statement.
Yes.
And that kind of, it shows the trust that
Mm-hmm.
they have in him,
Yeah.
the friendship, and, the expectation, I guess, that he's going to be part of the family, not just in
Yeah.
it for Elizabeth, if that makes any
Yes.
sense.
Yes, it does. I love the family theme in this episode and community
Yes.
as well.
Yes. Yes. Me too.
And speaking of community and Lee and Rosemary. That first scene when they are at home with their daughter, Lee slept in, and Rosemary's like, who needs sleep when you can spend every minute just looking at her? And then they recline on the sofa. And before I get into the big part of this episode, it's been 3 weeks since baby Coulter was born, and they still don't have a name.
Okay, that was shocking to me. I'm like, what have you been calling this kid for 3 weeks? What?
Like
Oh
what?
my gosh. Literally.
Usually a baby's name is picked out before the birth or literally right after.
Honestly, I'm kind of like, what were Lee and Rosemary doing the entire pregnancy? Were they thinking of names? Were they just, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. Were they gonna wing it when they had the baby and then decided to wait another 3 weeks? I just feel like the longer you wait, the harder it is to pick a name. And I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know. I feel like the struggle of them being able to name the baby is going to go on for a little bit longer.
I hope it doesn't go on too much longer because
Yeah.
that would be a long time without a name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is sort of a spoiler, but I know for a fact that in the last episode, they're finally going to pick
Yeah.
a godfather for the baby. And that tells me they haven't even done the christening yet by the 12th episode. What are we doing? What are we doing? I
Okay.
don't know. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. They hear a knock on the door, and Lee's like, what was that? And them frantically cleaning the house. That was hilarious.
It was, yes. And Lee like picked up all like the clothes on the ground and then literally goes to the door
They're
and
like, we're
just dumps them
coming.
at the door. Yeah. He literally just dumped them right next to the front door and then opened the door. I'm like, Lee, that's not how you clean a house.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty funny. Yeah.
Yes. Elizabeth, Molly, Florence, and Minnie came over for food delivery, and they are gushing over baby Coulter, which is understandable. She is adorable.
Yes.
And then they talk about baby names. And I love how Lee says the perfect name for the perfect baby girl.
Yes. Which I think is why maybe they're struggling a little bit
Yeah.
because they want something that's
Yeah.
perfect
Yes.
and fits the baby perfectly.
Yeah.
And, like it can be hard, especially after 3 weeks of not having a name. It's very hard to,
Yeah.
you know, land on something and say, okay, that's what she is,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spending time at home with Lucas and Elizabeth. Lucas and Elizabeth brought more casserole from Gustav. Okay, I think you know what I'm about to say. Lee wiping his face with the diaper. At least it was clean.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed out loud at that part. It's like, Lee, that's a diaper. He's like, uh
Oh,
poor Lee. He's
oh my
having a little
goodness.
bit of fog brain there.
Yes. Lucas arranges a nice romantic dinner for Lee and Rosemary at the saloon. And of course, they don't want to leave their daughter so soon, which I can totally understand that.
Understandable.
Rosemary suggests that Lucas and Elizabeth go instead. And Rosemary, with her dramatic flair, she's like, a romantic date night. And Lee's like, a date night would be nice. And
Oh, poor
Rosemary's like,
Lee.
a pre-honeymoon honeymoon.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I will say that's a bit of an exaggeration, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
understand where she's going with
yeah. Rosemary kicking Lucas and Elizabeth out the door. That was hilarious. Even my dad laughed.
Yeah, that was very
Like, he
funny.
was making a joke about, like, in her mind, she was probably saying, "Okay, now just scoot, get out of my house."
Yeah, I don't think she was even thinking what she was offering until they were out of the house, and then she's like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
now I'm gonna have 2 kids, not just
yeah,
1."
yeah.
Yeah.
Lucas says, "So now we're going out and they're babysitting." Well, I guess I can't complain.
Oh my gosh. I was honestly shocked that, they took them up on that. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
"Do
was
you not
too.
see the disarray of the house and how
Yeah,
tired poor Lee is?"
yes,
But, if they wanna do it, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Spending time with their daughter and babysitting little Jack. This was a very sweet scene, especially with Rosemary and little Jack.
Yes.
At first, Rosemary is saying how, they're watching two babies, and little Jack is like, "I'm not a baby." And Rosemary's like, "You are not. I stand corrected." Oh my
I
gosh.
will say little Jack is gonna have a very good vocabulary, especially with Auntie Rosemary around.
Yes. Okay. Can we just take a moment to melt over Lee
Yes!
taking his
Oh my
daughter
gosh.
and calling her
Yes.
precious?
Okay,
My
the
heart.
fact that a month after birth, he is still, like, really gung ho to go do diaper change duty is so sweet, so sweet,
Yes.
and the fact that he called himself daddy, that's just so cute.
Yeah. He's like,
I
"Daddy's
love
got
that.
you." I was like, my heart is a
Yeah, so
puddle.
cute. Yeah. I mean, we all knew Lee would love being a dad, but
Yeah.
I don't think I underestimated how much he would like it. It's so sweet.
Yes. He's going to be a good girl dad.
He is.
She is going to be wrapped around his finger.
Oh, yes.
And I can't wait to see more.
Yes, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
So Lee goes to change his daughter's diaper, and then it's just little Jack and Rosemary, and he picks up a drawing and he says, "This is for my mommy." And then he says, "This can be for your mommy. What's her name?"
Oh, yeah, that was
And then
sweet.
he says, "Are you sad, Auntie Rosemary?" And she says, "No, I'm not sad. I'm the happiest I've ever been." And he's like, "Bean." They threw that in there. That was adorable.
That was really cute. Part of me wonders, was that improv? I don't know. It was
I
very
don't know.
funny.
Because I know that that's actually how Pascal says Ben.
Yes, yes.
That was
That
perfect. That was so
that
cute.
was really sweet. Yes. That was super sweet.
Yes. And speaking of another sweet moment between Rosemary and Elizabeth, Elizabeth comes over and she invites her over for tea as a thank you. Rosemary declines, of course, because Lee is napping and she is the most tired she's ever been. Elizabeth insists that she join Lee for a nap while she watches the baby, and Rosemary says, "Thank you. What would I do without you? You'd be very sleepy."
Yeah. Again, this kind of goes back to
Yeah,
the house storyline a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Um, it really struck me more in this scene than even the family
Hmm.
scene, where, Elizabeth kind of looks around the house and she's like, okay, I'm going to be here for Lee and Rosemary. I'm going to
I'm gonna
clean the
clean
place
the
up. And
house.
she couldn't do that if she wasn't Rosemary's neighbor.
That's true. Yeah.
And yeah, that really stood out to me. Also, I have definitely done this for my sister.
Oh,
She's had 2 babies in the last 2 years, I think,
oh.
and both times it's very hard within the first month.
Yeah,
There's a
I can
lot of lack of
imagine.
sleep, and there were many times I went over to her house and just
Oh,
said, "Go take a nap. I'll take care of the baby.
oh, that's
I'll
sweet.
clean the house." Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
definitely a thing, and
yeah,
yeah, I was happy
yeah.
to see. Elizabeth do that for Rosemary.
Me too. And if I remember correctly, I feel like there was a scene where the roles were reversed. It might have been in season 6, like when little Jack was first born, where Rosemary watched little Jack. Or maybe it was Lee and Rosemary watched little Jack while Elizabeth
Yes.
took a nap.
There were quite a few times in season 6 where Rosemary and Lee watched Little Jack, but the one I'm thinking of, Elizabeth had to teach, so Rosemary had baby Jack for the day, and that's when she was playing Mozart in the background and
Yes.
doing hand and feet
Yep.
art with
Yep.
little Jack. And,
yes.
Yeah, doing all those things.
Yeah. And to end off Lee and Rosemary's storyline in this episode, why don't we just talk about that conversation with Elizabeth and Rosemary? I think we've touched on this a little bit, but not in depth.
Yeah. So I think Rosemary reacts very like intensely to the idea of Elizabeth moving away. And I think that's very much a you know, a abandonment, like
with her mom.
Trauma that she has from her childhood with her mom, and she doesn't want Elizabeth to leave her because right now Rosemary is missing her mom, but at the same time she has Elizabeth here. And I think the thought of Elizabeth leaving, it really like shook her up because I think she knows that it would be very very hard to do this on her own.
It was a good scene, but it made me sad for Rosemary.
Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah. And I think in that moment Elizabeth was probably, you know, glad that she had, stood her ground and kind of hold firm on that issue of, you know, this it was basically proving to her why she needed to be there.
Yes. Exactly. Going on to Nathan, Allie, and the Canfields. They had some great moments in this episode. Let's just start with the conversation with Elizabeth after school. That was a good scene.
It was a good scene, yeah. And I completely understand where Nathan's coming from, saying that he gets a little nervous to talk about teenagers because sometimes there are just some people who in your life maybe you love them to death, but sometimes the conversations just get to be very like difficult.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I love to get alone time with these people, but at the same time I know it's always gonna, especially with teenagers, it's always gonna get into like the deeper questions of life, like, about all these things that maybe Nathan just is like, I kind of want to break right now, So I totally understand where he's coming from. Yeah.
Of course, I do too. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can understand still.
Right.
And Allie wants to know if Angela can join in on the camping trip, which I loved.
I love that too. I love that they're friends. I think it's really great. I remember when Angela first came to town, I kind of had this little hope that someday she and Allie would be friends. I was like, oh, wouldn't that be great? And now they are. And it's like, yay.
Yes.
So we're there and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Joseph, Minnie, and Angela at the cafe. Angela asks her mom and dad if she can go on the camping trip. And of course, they have their concerns. Being parents, that's what they do.
Yeah.
She mentions that her dad can go, but he says that he has too much work and he can't go. This line, I'm not gonna lie, it made me laugh. When Joseph and Minnie look at each other, and then Angela is like, I know you're looking at each other.
Yes, I thought that was very clever. I mean, Angela is very, very smart, and she can be a little sassy when she wants to. It was very
Yes.
funny.
Yeah. And of course, they eventually agree to her going as long as she listens to Constable Grant.
Yes.
I almost said Constable Thornton. I was like, wait, nope.
It's all good. See, back in seasons 1 through 5, it would have been Constable Thornton.
Oh
He
my
took the
goodness.
kids on a camping trip too. So
He did. Maybe that's why I was thinking that.
yeah,
I loved Minnie's encouragement to Joseph when she says, "You were giving a lot of good things to this community and our family. Maybe it's time to do something good for yourself."
yeah. I really really liked that. I
Yeah.
think Joseph's a character who, like Minnie said, gives a lot, and is this season in particular has been
Mhm.
there for a lot of people, has had very intense conversations with
Yeah.
Henry, has been working
Yeah.
17 jobs,
Yeah.
17 in quotation
Yeah.
marks. Um, but yeah, he's always giving, and
Mhm.
I really liked that he
Yeah.
finally got a chance to actually,
Yes.
like internalize some of that.
Yeah. Me too.
It's good for him to
Yeah.
get a break.
Yeah. I will say I do miss Pastor Frank, but if he had not left, we would not have gotten the wonderful family that is the Canfields. I love
That is
them.
true.
They're some of my favorites on the show.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because until this particular episode, I wasn't super invested in the Canfields, and obviously I still miss Frank. But this
Yeah.
episode really like it gave me a look into Joseph, and now I'm like, you know what? I miss Frank, but we still have gold with Joseph,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
love the whole family. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the same without all four of them.
Yeah.
So I really do like the family. I like
Yeah.
their dynamic, and they're
Yes.
so realistic, like as a
Yes.
family. Like that's what a family is really
Yeah.
like. So I love it. I love it. And this was
Yeah.
the first episode where I really was like invested, and
Yeah. Me
yeah, I
too.
think it was great.
Yeah. The camping trip. Let's talk about Nathan and Joseph for a second. The wood chopping. I thought we were gonna get Nathan wood chopping too. I was kind of disappointed in that.
I thought so too. I was like, come on. Why don't you both chop some wood? But I mean, I'm not mad,
No, I'm not mad.
Joseph
No.
got to chop wood, and
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah,
And
that was
their
great.
conversation was really great in
Yeah.
that scene too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, question, Nathan doesn't like fishing.
What in the world?
Didn't he say in the season 7 Christmas movie he liked fishing? Or sometime in
I
season 7 or
I
6?
mean, I know he and Allie have gone fishing a
A
lot.
lot. Yeah.
And I know that Allie has liked to fish since season
Hmm.
6,
Yeah.
but maybe not as much now because she's a teenager.
Yeah. I
But
mean, that first scene or that
yeah,
scene when
literally,
she
that's her introduction. Yeah.
like when she walks up in town to Elizabeth after skipping school to go fishing,
Yes, literally. That's
carrying,
like one of her first scenes is going fishing, playing hooky from
hey, look
school
what
and
I
going
caught,
fishing.
Dad or Uncle
Yeah.
Nathan.
Yes. So yeah, I was very surprised to
Yeah.
hear that. I didn't really like it, but
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
character changing
No.
or anything. It's
Mm-mm.
just like,
Just kind of
what? Come on.
confusing. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nathan's advice to Joseph, this was another favorite line in the episode. He says, I think it's good to say no because then you can focus on the things you've said yes to.
That is I remember hearing that line. I was like, "Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
It is so true though."
Yeah. It's great
And
advice.
yeah, there are certain lines that stand out to me every
Hmm.
once in a while. You might have like we are Hope Valley, or
Yes.
bad things happen if people do
Good people.
nothing. Or
Yeah.
in season 8, there was one where Lee said, choose love, then you feel it. Something like that.
Yeah.
There was a line in there. And this was one of those lines. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good
Yes.
line. I really liked seeing, I was fully expecting this scene to be Joseph giving Nathan advice on something.
Yeah.
I was fully expecting that.
Hmm.
I was surprised that it was actually the other way
Way
around,
around.
but I
Yeah.
loved it because this is more of a like relaxation
Hmm.
time for
Hmm.
Joseph than it is for Nathan.
Yeah.
Nathan's just kind of there to interact with Allie and get out,
Hmm.
whatever. But
Yeah.
Joseph's there to actually unwind, and part of that is actually talking things
Yeah.
out.
Yes.
And seeing him actually open up to Nathan like that and say, "Yeah, I have trouble saying no to
Hmm.
people," and you know, Nathan giving some really solid advice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really, I loved seeing them in scenes together in this
Yes. Me
episode.
too.
Yeah, they're really really good scene
Yeah.
partners. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to see more of them together. I don't know
Oh
how much we'll
yeah.
actually get, but I would love to see more of it.
Yes, yes, but for the record though, I really really liked that Nathan
Yeah.
was actually the one giving advice in
Yes,
this
me too.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Allie and Angela. Allie has written another poem. The poem says, to a future where my heart's forged a lyrical bond with no cracks like a porcelain vase, as flowers bloom by the light of the shimmering moon. That's actually a good poem.
It is a good poem. And we've talked about this before, but I can't write poetry to save my life. And her poetry is like miles better than
Yeah.
any I've attempted
Yes.
to like write down. So I was really excited for
Yeah.
that. And I know Angela's kind of encouraging her
To
to
enter the poetry
enter
contest.
that in a contest, and I have a feeling that actually is going to come up later.
I
I have a
think
feeling
so. Yeah.
she is going to actually enter that contest and
Yeah.
potentially win something,
Yeah.
potentially get something published.
Yeah. That would
I
be
don't know.
awesome to see.
It would, yeah, it definitely would. Because remember, way back in season 7, she wrote her book report about Queen Victoria,
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
and Nathan said, "Oh, it looks like Mrs. Thornton isn't the only writer in town."
That's right.
And if Allie were to get something published, imagine like everyone in town like reading it, and
That would
like
be
that would just
awesome.
be so great for
Yeah.
her,
Yeah.
to really really pursue that path. I think that would
Yeah.
be really really great for her.
Yes. I also loved Allie's encouragement about Angela singing and playing the ukulele.
Yes. Yes. That was very sweet.
Yeah.
The only thing that surprised me was that Joseph didn't actually know she could sing,
Yeah.
because she says she practiced like in the house and stuff, but
Hmm.
I can tell you, I have a sister who loves to sing and practices singing a lot.
Wow.
And none of us in the house like ever had a doubt that she knew how to sing,
Oh my
because
goodness.
we could always hear her practicing. So
Yeah.
it's not so much me saying like, "Oh, Joseph doesn't know."
Yeah.
It's more of me saying like, "How did Joseph not hear her singing?"
Yeah.
Like, cuz
Yeah.
when you're in a big family and
Yeah.
you have someone who likes to sing, you just kind of hear them practicing
Yeah.
all the time. So,
Yes.
I don't know. I thought it was
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Super sweet though.
Yeah. And the moment that she plays This Little Light of Mine, which I love that song, by the way, and seeing how proud Joseph was, that was really sweet.
That was really sweet. Yes. The way he like gave her a kiss on the cheek, and it was just
Yes.
so cute.
And
Yeah.
the fact that they are actually father and daughter in real life made it even
Yes.
more special.
Yes. It made that scene so like seamless. Like you didn't
Yes.
have a doubt in your mind. You're like, "Oh yeah, they're definitely father and daughter." And
Yes.
it
Yeah.
was so perfect.
Yeah. To end off the camping trip, I gotta mention it. All of them singing this little light of mine. And Nathan chiming in, and then he's like, what? You didn't think your old man could sing?
Oh my gosh. That was definitely a standout moment for a lot of people in this
That
episode.
was awesome. That was
It
amazing.
was awesome. I mean, we all know Kevin can sing in real
Yes.
life, so
Yeah.
we've been waiting for that for
Mm-hmm.
years now. So I
Yeah.
think that was a big part of why that was so
Yeah.
great. But I
Yes.
also like to see Nathan specifically like actually open up that
Mm-hmm.
much to feel
Yeah.
comfortable to just like kind of belt it out is just that's
Yeah.
huge for him. That's
Yeah.
so huge. And it's crazy because on this camping trip, he wasn't even the one like bearing his soul or like
Mm-hmm.
talking things out with Joseph and getting advice. He's the one giving advice.
Mm-hmm.
But it clearly did something for him
Yeah.
and it opened up something for him where
Yeah.
he felt that comfortable,
Yeah.
doing that. And it was
Yes.
great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did too. And to round out Nathan's storyline, the conversation with Elizabeth when he returns. Love that scene too.
I know. It was very good. It was a
Yeah.
very good scene. It was gorgeous. Like
Yeah. The
visually
lighting. Yeah.
gorgeous. Oh yeah. Like the morning light, his
Mm-hmm.
blue shirt, her against her like pink dress and
Yes.
him up on the horse and her with like the basket of muffins. It was just
Yes.
it was so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
yeah, kudos to the director for that. I mean,
Can we just talk about that dialogue for a second? Because they're talking about the camping trip and not catching any fish. And then Elizabeth is like, let me guess. Ghost stories? Hot chocolate? Catching fireflies? Singing. Sounds like this trip might have been good for you. It was in more ways than one. It's good to be home, though. And then they go on talking about the muffins. And Nathan takes one for Newton. And Elizabeth's like, horses don't eat muffins. Oh, yeah, that's right. I guess I'll eat it.
oh my gosh. Is this the first time on the show that we've actually seen someone like really want a muffin? Because most of the time when people have muffins, they'll like offer it to people and they'll be like,
I don't
not that
know,
interested.
maybe.
But this is the first time where Nathan not only takes one,
He
but
takes
two.
two.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
see him like riding away and he's got like his mouth
Yeah.
full of muffins.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
awesome.
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
going back just a little bit, the mention of the ghost stories, it took me back to the season 3 camping trip because
Yes.
Jack and Elizabeth were talking about the ghost stories like after they put all the kids to bed and how the boys were scared of the ghost
Yeah.
stories.
He's like, yeah, some of them were a little young for those ghost stories.
Robert's like, I'm afraid of dogs
yes, that was hilarious
too.
for
And
sure.
Jack's like,
Yeah.
afraid of dogs. Great.
yeah, I definitely picked up on that. I noticed that. it was very funny. I also
Uh,
do want to on a more serious note, I just want to like point out like this scene was very interesting to me because like I said, everyone else on the camping trip seemed like they got something out of it.
mm-hmm.
Like you could physically see what they got out of it. Allie
Yeah.
was
With the
encouraged to
poetry.
write her poem.
Angela with her
Angela was
singing.
singing. Joseph is talking things out and then
Mm-hmm.
seeing his daughter, singing and
Yeah.
really getting a break. But
Yeah.
Nathan was kind of the one where it wasn't clear exactly until he had this conversation with
Yeah.
Elizabeth. And he's just like, "Oh yeah, it was really good for me." And it was just like I don't know. There was something that really struck me in that scene
Mm-hmm.
where she's like, "Oh, it seems like it was good for you," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it really was." It's like the first time we've seen Nathan in an emotionally really good
Good
place,
place.
like,
Yeah.
in a long
I
time
agree.
anyway, and
Yeah.
I just loved seeing that. Like,
Yes.
I mean, if we could just have that for the rest of the season,
Yeah.
like, I would not complain. I would not
Yeah.
complain.
Same.
Just more of the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just loved that. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah. It was a great scene.
It was.
Going on to Faith, Fiona, and May. They have some time at the salon. Fiona and May are giving Faith the clay facial mask with mung bean, green tea, and honey ginseng. A tourist walks by and she starts asking about it. And I believe this is when May tells the tourist about her pharmacy degree instead of it being her grandmother's recipe. And of course, Faith and Fiona pick up on it, and Fiona later has a conversation at the cafe with May. And this was one of my favorite scenes in the episode.
Oh, same. Yeah. I I have been hoping that we would get a little more
Yeah.
background on, May and why she became a
Mm-hmm.
pharmacist in the first place, and just a little bit more about her family
Yeah.
too. And I loved hearing about it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved hearing about the
Her
fact that
grandmother's
her
journals.
grandmother's journal inspired her,
Yes.
because to me that was almost a callback to original When Calls the Heart, where
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth's aunt
Yeah.
or great aunt, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it aunt or great aunt? I think
I think it was just Aunt because I think Aunt Elizabeth is William's sister, from what I can remember in the movie, the pilot
gotcha.
movie.
Okay,
So
that
I
makes
think that
sense.
would make
Yes.
her aunt.
Yes. But it brought me
Yeah.
like back to that where,
Yeah.
similar situation. Elizabeth goes out west and becomes a teacher because she's
Yes.
inspired by her aunt's journal. Not
Yeah.
even her
I
aunt
love that.
physically being there, but just reading her journal. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same with May. And I really hope we get more of this
Yeah.
storyline because I think it could be a really good
I think so too.
direction for May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved Fiona's encouragement. She says, it's okay not to have everything figured out. Sometimes you just have to focus on what you know. And please never apologize for who you are because I think who you are is pretty great.
Yeah. I love how, like Fiona's just like so like she's always encouraging other
Yeah.
people and just building them up. And I think it comes from,
Yeah.
working in a world where she
Yeah.
hasn't been built up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of wants to be that for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you remember way back in season 7, she was told she was just a cog in a big wheel and that she
Yes.
was dispensable. And, ever since then, she's just been encouraging other people
Yeah.
to do things in their life. And here she's encouraging May that
Mm-hmm.
she's good enough, and
Yeah.
it's
It
just
was very
great.
sweet.
I love
Yeah.
Fiona, so I was
Me
really,
too.
really,
Yeah.
really happy with that
Yeah.
scene.
Yes. And to end off the three of them in this episode, the talk at the soda fountain. They are discussing the face masks, and May wants to name it after her grandmother in honor of everything she's taught her. I think, if I'm correct, the name on the sketch that May had, her grandmother's name is Sue Lynn. And of course, the mask is Sue Lynn's clay mask, and Lynn means lotus flower.
Hmm. Yeah,
There was a nice moment to end off
it was for
their
sure. I
storyline.
love seeing May actually embrace something that's
Yeah.
like hers
Yes.
and be confident about it. Like seeing
Yeah.
her like confidently tell the tourist like, "Oh
Yeah.
yes, this is mine. My grandmother's."
Yeah.
Loved that. I thought that was a
Yeah.
great moment.
Yeah. Let's talk about Bill and Madeline and Jamie for a few minutes.
Oh my gosh. I I don't even know where to start. I I don't know. I just really don't trust Madeline right now, and
Yeah.
I I love Jamie. I
Yeah,
love
Jamie
Jamie,
is
and
yeah.
I will take more of Jamie all day, every day. And I have a feeling Madeline is going to come around eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, Bill,
I don't
you need to think this through
think
first.
she's a bad person. I don't think she's intentionally trying to cause
Yeah.
distress. I mean, at least from where I see it now. To me, it seems like she's being influenced by someone else.
Yes.
Like she's
Yes.
being
I
told or forced to do something by someone
agree.
superior than her in her job.
Yes, I completely agree. I think she's being coerced into doing this or pressured into doing it, and I think that's eventually going to come out. But I don't think it's going to come out before she scams Bill and the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
town in a big way. So yeah, I'm hoping that
Part of me,
Madeline can have a redemption story,
yeah,
but for now, I don't know.
part of me wonders if she has involvement with the governor.
Oh, I think she does. Or at least I personally, my theory is that she is working with developers
Yeah.
who want to come into Hope Valley, take control of the hot springs,
Mm-hmm.
take control of the water supply because we heard about that one
Mm-hmm.
valley that Harry,
Yeah.
the
Eagle
bandit,
Creek, I think.
Eagle Creek is struggling with a drought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a coincidence that Madeline is
Mm-hmm.
looking for land with water on it. So I do think
Yeah.
that they are looking to develop
Yeah.
an area in Hope Valley, perhaps
Mm-hmm.
to sell to the people of Eagle Creek. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, it's not going to end
And
well.
well,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
don't know how involved the governor will be with that, but I do
Yeah.
know that I'm pretty sure Madeline is involved with some
Yeah.
kind of development scheme.
Yeah. And you can tell in that phone conversation that she has that she is at least partially upset that she does not want to do this. She
Yeah.
says, "You don't need to remind me of my situation. I'm well aware. I'm working on it. I just need a little more time."
Yeah. And it could be maybe her husband left her with debts,
It could
maybe
be. Yeah.
maybe I don't know, maybe I don't even know what is up with her, but I do know she's probably in
Yeah.
trouble and that's why she's doing this and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not looking good right now.
Yeah. And the fact that Bill sells his land to her, I'm just like, what are you thinking, Bill? And I think it's going to come back to haunt him.
Oh yeah, I think that's going to be a major problem because basically think of it as like you're in a safe structure and then you open up a little square of it and it lets in everything that you're trying to keep out. That's basically
Yeah.
kind of what Bill did when he sold
Hmm.
her the land. I think he's opening it's like a dam,
Yeah.
opening a tiny hole and it's all gonna,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be good.
Yeah.
So I think Bill is definitely gonna regret that decision, but
Yeah.
I know that it's because he has feelings for her
Yes.
that he kind of made that kind of rash choice,
Hmm.
but I do think he's gonna regret it.
Yeah. You
And
can kind
it's
of
not gonna be good.
tell the feelings are there a little bit with that handshake that they had.
Yeah, yeah. And plus he's very like flustered about the whole thing,
Hmm.
talking to Hickam
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
Nathan about how he's like, I don't like her. It's like, well, we all know that's the way you show feelings, Bill, is to be
Yes.
flustered.
Yes. And
Yeah.
speaking of Nathan, can we please get more Bill and Nathan scenes? Because
We need that. Yes.
that scene was hilarious. He's talking about wanting to move up there someday and retire. Now, of course, this was before he sold the land. And he wants to live a quiet life. And Nathan's like, "A quiet life? You?" And then he goes on to say how he even tried to sell the land to him. And then he brings up how he's been having breakfast with Madeline every morning.
Yes.
Bill is just like all flustered and he just literally walks out and Nathan's like, good chat. Good chat.
Yes. I love seeing Nathan like tease Bill a little bit. It was
Yeah.
very funny. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then his good chat
Good
at the
chat.
end that was hilarious.
Hashtag more Bill and Nathan.
Team Gravery. We need
Yes.
more of
There
them.
we
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Definitely need more of them. And I think we
Yes.
are going to get a few more scenes with them
I
next
think
week.
so too. Yeah. Do we want to talk about Henry a little bit before we wrap up this episode?
Absolutely.
The talk with Elizabeth. Can we just briefly talk about that joke about the seesaw? Yeah, it's up and down.
I literally laughed out loud because I was like, I don't know if Henry meant that to be a pun, but it was hilarious. And then he started laughing. I'm like, oh, he was making a pun. That was
Oh my
good,
gosh.
Henry.
And then he says another joke when she asks him if he could take on one more project, and he says, I thought I was the project.
Well, he's self-aware.
And then
I
Elizabeth is,
thought that was hilarious.
yeah,
So funny. I mean, Henry always knows what's
yeah,
going on and, everything like that. But it was just so funny to see him like joking kind
yeah,
of about the fact that he's doing community service.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I thought that was so funny.
yeah. She's like, two jokes. This is becoming a habit.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it
Yeah.
really shows that doing the work and
Mhm.
working with his hands once again is doing something good for Henry. And
Yes.
whereas with the camping trip we saw a lot of things
Hmm.
happening that would help the characters
Yeah.
improve their emotional state and everything. Same thing with Henry, doing community service
Hmm.
and helping other people. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. A lot
Yes.
of self-care themes, a
Hmm.
lot of like
Yeah.
helping others and getting
Hmm.
joy that way in this episode. And I really,
Yeah.
really liked that.
Yes, me too. The kids are working on a project at school, growing plants, and they need garden boxes, which will be the project that Henry takes on with the kids. Those scenes with him and the kids were some of my favorites in the episode.
Yes. I always this is not the first scene
Yeah.
that we've seen where Henry is helping the kids with a project.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the
Yeah.
first one, but I really liked this one cuz it's just like there was no like in the past there's always been like this sense of like, oh, Henry the criminal like taking care
Mm-hmm.
of the kids, but there was none of that this
Nope.
episode. There
Nope.
weren't any other parents around. It was just Elizabeth and him and the kids. And it was like
Yes.
it shows how much
Yeah.
the community like trusts him and loves him
Yes.
now.
Yes.
Cuz in the past he's done these projects and everyone around is like Henry Gowan?
Yeah.
Whoa, but now it's like, oh yeah, Henry Gowan,
Yeah. Yes.
helping all the kids. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really, really
Yeah.
nice parallel, but also a nice improvement and change.
Yes. The brief talk with Opal and Cooper. Henry says it feels good to do something you didn't think you could do. Because
Mhm.
Opal says, I didn't think I could do that.
Yeah. Is this one of the first scenes we've had Opal in this season?
Um, it's one of the few. I feel like we might have seen her a couple
Yeah.
more times earlier
That's the
on.
thing. We haven't had enough Opal this season. I think
No,
we need
we have
more Opal.
not. Yes, we
Yeah.
need more
I know a
Opal.
lot of the kids are getting a lot of screen time,
Yeah.
which is great. That is perfectly great. But I
Yeah.
kind of miss Opal,
Yeah, me too.
kind of missing her. So,
Question, is there something that you've ever done that you didn't think you could do?
ooh. Um, Well, I will say I didn't think that I very recently, within the past year, got my license finally.
Oh,
I
yay.
didn't think, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be possible for me to do that. I just
Oh,
kind of was like, I just couldn't envision myself actually like driving, actually with my own car.
yeah.
And sure enough, actually, both things have happened. I
Oh,
have my license and the car, and I just didn't think that would happen, but it did. And
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably the one for me. How about you?
Oh, goodness. Um, hmm. Well, I'll say two that I can just think of right off the bat. One would be starting this podcast. I mean,
Yeah,
a few years ago, I never would have even considered starting a podcast.
right. Yeah. And
Originally,
look at
I,
you now. Yeah.
oh, thank you. But originally, I thought about starting a blog, but then a blog turned into a podcast, and I'm so glad that I did that instead. Even
Oh,
though
yeah.
blogs are great, I love those as well.
Blogs are great, but podcasts are the thing of the future. So
Yes.
I think you made a wise
Oh,
decision
thank
there.
you. It's been really fun. I've really had a good time with it.
Yeah.
And
I've had a good time listening. So
oh, thank you. And my second one, hmm, if I'm just thinking spur of the moment, I would have to say working on a roof on my mission trip,
oh my gosh. Wow.
like
I'm
repairing an
impressed.
entire roof. I
Wow.
mean, not by myself, of course, with my other
Yeah, yeah.
friends.
That's so cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very nerve-wracking being up on a
Yeah.
roof.
Did you guys have hot weather for it too? Because I
Oh,
hear that it's insanely hot when you're up on the roof.
yes, it's even hotter. And stepping away from Wayne Coastal Heart for just a second because I have to share this story. I was on a roofing site, of course, and this was the year that the heat index was over 100 degrees every single day
Oh my
of the week we were
gosh.
there in Clemson, South Carolina, or Pendleton. And we had to repair the entire roof. It was a low roof, like the angle, it wasn't that steep, but we had taken all of the shingles off and we were starting to put the new ones on, I think by Wednesday. And we had so many issues because it being so hot. We would literally lay a new shingle down and then like 5 seconds later it would just fall off because the tar was just melting from the heat.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's insane.
We did not finish until the day that we left, like the Saturday that we left.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And the camp director even had to come in and help us finish the
Oh
roof.
my gosh. That is insane. Wow. I can't imagine that. Because I've been on mission trips and I didn't have to do that. I was just building like a wheelchair ramp or something. But up
Oh,
on the roof and like over 100 degrees, that's insane. That's dedication.
that was
Wow.
actually my third roofing site. So I had been on a roofing site the previous 2 years, and then I was on another one, I think the following year.
Wow. Well, then you must be able to roof a house now if you ever
Oh,
needed to.
maybe
You ever
not
had a
by
leak in
myself,
your house, you know what to
not by
do.
myself.
Yeah. True,
Uh,
true. Yeah.
but
Uh,
I actually love roofing. Now, my mom and dad, they always worry about me doing it,
yeah.
which
That's
is
fair. That's
understandable, but
fair.
it
Yes.
actually is really fun.
Oh yeah. I'm sure it is.
But you got
Yeah.
to be careful. You got to have the right kind of shoes because one year I literally almost slipped I didn't have the right
Oh,
shoes one day and I had to change my shoes
oh my gosh.
because the
That's
soles, they
terrifying.
weren't
They didn't grip
very
enough,
like slip
probably, right?
resistant. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Probably
wow.
not smart on my part, but thankfully
Well,
nothing
you
happened.
you gotta do what you gotta do, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes. But going back to Hope Valley and Henry with the kids, I think this was my favorite moment with Henry and the kids, and it is with Sarah.
Hmm.
First, it is Elizabeth and Sarah. She walks over to her. She's sitting on the bench and she sees that she's sad. And Sarah tells her that she doesn't want her plant to be lonely. Henry comes over and he says, "Here's the thing about pumpkins. They like to be together to pollinate so that they can grow together. Really, in a way, they need their friends." And then he offers to help scare up
Oh,
some friends for her pumpkin.
that was so cute.
Yes. And them planting the pumpkin seedling together and then Sarah putting her hand on Henry's,
Yes!
that was
That was
precious.
so cute. It was really cute. Yeah. It kind of brought me back to that one moment in season 6, I think, the season 6 Christmas episode
With
where that little orphan girl is just like following Henry around
yes.
everywhere and like wants him to read the book to her, and it's just so cute. But this
Yeah.
was so cute too. Like,
I
oh
literally
man,
melted.
so adorable. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, why don't we talk about that preview for next week or this
Oh my
week, I
gosh.
should say,
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. It looks like we're in for an emotional roller coaster.
for
Um,
Rosemary.
for Rosemary, yeah. I think it sounds like they're going to be delving into some pretty intense
Yeah.
issues. Um, I'm kind of hoping we get a little bit of resolution with
Mm-hmm.
this storyline for
Yeah, me too.
Rosemary in the next episode, because you think about it, this is season episode 6.
Yeah,
That
we're
means we're
halfway through the
halfway through
season.
the season, and I feel like there's been a lot of focus on Lee and Rosemary,
Mm-hmm.
which is great because they
Yes.
deserve that, and this
Yes.
is their season to have the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of other storylines that need to
Need to
get
be.
moving. Like,
Yeah.
we need a little bit more on Lucas and Elizabeth's
Mm-hmm.
wedding. We
Yeah.
need way more on Nathan's romance, if there even is
Yes.
one, because there was nothing about that in this episode.
Nope.
We need to,
Yeah.
chop get on that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm hoping for a little bit of resolution on that
Mm-hmm.
storyline so we could kind of move on to other
Yeah.
things. That's not to say that I haven't enjoyed it. I've
Yeah.
loved it, but
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see other characters get the
Yeah. Me
spotlight
too.
because it needs to happen. We
Yeah.
have, you know,
Yeah.
half a season left.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
And
things that still need to happen.
it seems to me like they're going to go down the postpartum route with Rosemary.
Yes. Yes. I wasn't really expecting that for
Yeah.
Rosemary. They don't show that a whole lot on
Mm-mm.
TV.
Mm-mm.
Um, I know Pascal mentioned that in an interview, that she said they're taking it a route that hasn't really been done on TV, and I
Mm-hmm.
can see that with the
Yeah.
postpartum, storyline.
Which makes me sad for
I
Rosemary.
I know, it's so sad. And I'm kind of sad that Rosemary isn't like more joyful about the
Yeah.
birth, but at the same time, I think it is an important story to tell
Yes,
for
because
sure.
it is a real thing. I mean, people actually go through that. So I'm
Oh
glad that
yeah.
they're tackling
Yeah.
it.
Exactly, yeah. And they've tackled hard stories with Rosemary
Mm-hmm.
before, like with her infertility,
Yes.
and that whole storyline was very,
Mm-hmm.
very heavy, and they were able to tackle that
Mm-hmm.
very, very respectfully,
Yeah.
very beautifully. So I think it'll be the same with the postpartum
Mm-hmm.
storyline.
Yeah.
I just hope that it doesn't drag out for too long,
I
if
hope
that
not
makes any
either.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. The clip of Rosemary in the mercantile holding a music box playing Lavender's Blue. I thought that was interesting.
It was. I think it's very connected to her mother,
Yes,
probably. I
I
think
think
we're going
so
to hear
too.
more about her mother next week.
Yeah,
We do know that she and Lee are going to be opening
opening
the trunk,
the trunk.
which, yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to be interesting for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know the song Lavender's Blue from the live action Cinderella.
I was going to say, yeah. If anyone knows that song, it's from that movie. So,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
And then we get a clip of Faith and Rosemary saying one of the hardest roles to play is a motherless mother. And Rosemary says, I miss her. Oh,
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Oh, yeah. I feel very bad
Yeah,
for Rosemary. I'm hoping,
yeah.
she can
And
rally and.
yeah, Elizabeth and Rosemary. How can I help? I have so many questions. How could she leave me?
Yeah,
Mm,
so sweet. I'm
yeah,
sure it hits her even harder now
that
that
she's a mother.
she has a child and she can't even
Yeah,
fathom leaving this baby.
yeah,
And I'm sure that feeling is
yeah,
triggering her to rethink it and like, how could my
yeah,
mother leave me? Like, was it something
yeah.
I did? Was it something, did she just not love me as much
Yeah.
as I love my
This,
daughter? And
yeah, this storyline kind of, in a way, reminds me of a storyline in SSD. Spoiler alert. I know you haven't seen it, and I'm sorry for spoiling it. I won't say the movie, but there is one particular movie where we find out more about why Oliver's mother left him, and it's heart-wrenching.
oh,
She
oh
left
no.
him because, according to his father in this one particular movie, he says she wasn't cut out to be a mother. So she
Hmm.
just left.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. And his father also said that she wanted to have Oliver, but she didn't want the responsibility. So I wonder if they're going to go there with Rosemary, like the same kind of thing. I'm curious to find
Yeah.
out.
I honestly have no idea. I almost feel like with Rosemary, it could be because her dad was a Mountie. It could be possibly maybe it didn't have to do with Rosemary. Maybe it had to do with
With her dad,
her
maybe?
dad, and just the mother not being able to cope with that or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, part of me thinks the whole idea that Rosemary's dad is a Mountie is going to come into it,
Yeah.
but
It
I
could
could be
be.
wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
being a Mountie's wife, I can imagine must be difficult.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
For sure.
Elizabeth knows it firsthand, so
Yeah. Absolutely.
hopefully we'll find out more soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
excited to find out
Yes.
more.
Overall, I think this was a good episode.
Yeah. I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10.
That's a good rating. I think I gave it 8, if I remember correctly, on mine. It was
Yeah.
good. I enjoyed it.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
There were a lot of really good moments in it
Yes.
for sure. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Hearties. Well, I think that wraps up our review of Season 10, Episode 5. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like this video. And if you want to stay up to date on all of our reviews for the rest of the season and my movie reviews, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next week. We love y'all. Bye.
Bye.